Welcome to the Past Passport. This is where we turn cities into clues that reveal how the world really worked, not just through wars or kings, but through money, trade, labor, and ambition. Here we unpack the economic engines behind some of history's most legendary cities, how they rose, what they traded, who they taxed, and why their streets mattered long after the dust settled. Because the best way to understand power is to follow the flow of goods, of people, of currency. Today we're traveling to one of the oldest, boldest, and most legendary cities on Earth, a place where merchants, scholars, and conquerors all stopped, traded, shared, and moved on, but not before leaving something behind. Welcome to Samarkand. It was never meant to be ordinary. The name alone sounds like a story. But for centuries, Samarkand was the story, a city where the Silk Road didn't just pass through, it paused, collected itself, and reshaped the world. This is the tale of how one city connected China, Persia, India, and Europe, and made a fortune by doing absolutely everything in between. Let's rewind. Samarkand has been around for over 2,500 years. That's older than Rome. It started as a settlement under Persian rule, then bounced between empires. Alexander the Great passed through, the Sogdians built it up, and the Arabs brought Islam in the 8th century. But Samarkand's real rise began when it became part of the Silk Road. Not just as a dot on the map, but as one of its cultural capitals. It wasn't just a trade city, it was a stopping point, a mixing bowl, a translator between East and West. Caravans rolled in from Xi'an, packed with silk and porcelain. From India came spices and gems. From Persia and Arabia, carpets, incense, glassware. And from Europe, metals, wool, wine. They met in Samarkand, they traded, they taxed, and they learned. This is where the economy gets interesting. Samarkand made its fortune in three ways. First, through location. Second, through conversion. Third, through culture. Let's start with the obvious one. Samarkand was perfectly placed. If you're crossing the desert from China, you need to rest. You need food, water, stables, security. Samarkand offered all of that for a fee. The city charged caravan fees, it taxed imports, it sold services. Local guides, interpreters, scribes. Want a safe pass through Central Asia? Pay the toll. Now, add layer 2, conversion. Samarkand was famous for middlemen. Merchants here didn't just pass goods along, they processed them. They repackaged silk for different markets. They dyed fabrics. They minted coins. They translated scrolls. They turned bulk goods into branded exports. This added value meant higher profits. It also meant Samarkand wasn't just riding the Silk Road, it was upgrading it. And then there's the third factor, culture. This city was a classroom, a laboratory, and a trading floor rolled into one. Scholars came to study, astronomers charted stars, poets performed in markets, architects built mosques, madrasas, and towers so blue they made the sky jealous. All of this was powered by commerce, because where money flows, talent follows. By the 14th century, Samarkand was thriving. And that's when one man took it to the next level. His name was Timur. You might know him as Tamerlane. He was a conqueror, yes, but also a strategist. When he chose Samarkand as his capital, he didn't just want to rule. He wanted to show off. Under Timur, the city exploded with investment. He brought in artisans from everywhere he conquered, metalworkers from Syria, architects from India, scholars from Iran. He poured money into infrastructure, roads, markets, caravanserais. He turned Samarkand into both a fortress and a showroom. And his empire benefited, because now Samarkand wasn't just a crossroads, it was a destination. People came to see the domes, the mosaics, the observatories. They brought knowledge and goods with them, and they paid to stay. This is how cities get rich without conquering anything new. They make themselves the center of gravity. But gravity shifts, and Samarkand, like every powerful city, faced disruption. As sea routes expanded in the 16th century, trade shifted away from land. The Silk Road, once the lifeblood of Eurasia, slowed to a trickle. Goods moved faster by ship. European ports began to replace Central Asian ones. Add to that internal instability, political fractures, regional wars, and the slow unraveling of Timur's empire. Samarkand began to fade. Not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly, elegantly, like a caravan disappearing over the dunes. And yet, its influence never really left, because Samarkand wasn't just a place of profit, it was a place of exchange. Not just for goods, but for ideas. The astronomical charts developed here influenced scholars in India and the Islamic world. The architecture inspired mosques from Istanbul to Delhi. The culture of tolerance and multilingual education left a mark far beyond the desert. And now, Samarkand is still here. It's in Uzbekistan, restored, proud, and still dazzling. Tourists come for the Registan Square, for the towering blue domes, for the echoes of caravans long gone. But the deeper story, it's written in trade ledgers, old currency, market stalls, and city planning. Because the Silk Road wasn't just about silk, it was about systems. Samarkand was one of the first cities to prove that you don't have to conquer the world to shape it. You just have to stand in the middle of it and understand how to listen, translate, and trade. That's the power of a crossroads. Silk, spice, silver, goods, knowledge, influence, all flowing through a single city that didn't just connect empires, it balanced them. Samarkand teaches us that sometimes the most powerful place in the world is the place in between. Thanks for exploring with us. If you like this journey, hit subscribe and drop a comment. What modern city do you think is today's crossroads? Because at the Past Passport, we don't just study history, we map the way cities move the world. And we're just getting started.